Hi everyone, welcome to my May wrap up. I will be discussing 8 books today because I had another just okay reading month. As always, I'm going to start off with the statistics. I'm going to try to keep it quite short for you in case you're not interested. Like I said, I read a total of 8 books in May. The page count added up to 3,300-ish pages. I read 3 new releases and 4 backlist titles. I read 2 YA books and 5 adult books. 1 of the books was from a male author, 7 of the books were from female authors. I read 2 2-star books, 4 3-star books, 1 4-star book and 1 5-star book, and my average rating was 3.3, so not bad. And now on to the books. The first one I read was for my 24-hour readathon, and that was My Sister the Serial Killer. And this is an adult mystery contemporary. I wouldn't really call it a thriller. The main character has a sister who is obviously a serial killer. She keeps killing her boyfriends and she insists that it's accidental or they deserved it. And the main character has to keep tidying up her sister's messes. We learn that there's quite a lot of rivalry between the siblings for various reasons, and there are a lot of insecurities there as well. In terms of my thoughts of this book, I enjoyed it while I was reading it, but now that it's over and I've sat on it for 3 weeks, it wasn't the most memorable. It's very short. It's only 220 something pages. It didn't really give me much time to get to know the characters. It did do a decent job of introducing me to the characters in what short time that it did have, but it could have been a lot better if it was longer, in my opinion. I think that the short page count though did mean that the plot kept moving at a really fast pace, so I definitely wasn't bored at all. It's just I wish it could have been a longer book. I really struggle with short books, it seems. I gave this one 3.5 stars, by the way. On the opposite end of that spectrum is I See You by Claire McIntosh. This is an adult thriller by the author of I Let You Go, which I've heard amazing things about. I haven't read it myself because I couldn't find it in the library, but I did read this one. I have to admit that I didn't really love this book. I thought that it went on for too long. It's quite long for a thriller and not much really happened. I didn't find it all that enticing. It's about a woman. Actually, it's told from many different perspectives, but the first one is a woman who is called Zoe, and she sees her photo in the newspaper one morning on the tube, and she's obviously quite concerned because why would her photo be in there, and then she tries to follow the website link that is on there, but it only leads to a password protected site. And so the police get involved and start investigating because women are also being killed, and they think it's linked to the photos in the newspaper because there's a different photo every single day. I really wish I had enjoyed this more because I feel like it had some potential. It's just the plot wasn't really that intriguing and none of the characters really stood out to me. There were a lot of different characters in this book. Zoe and whatever the policewoman's name was just weren't that compelling, and I think in a thriller with kind of a mediocre plot you need some interesting characters, but this didn't. I also managed to figure out the twist like way before it happened. It was kind of obvious what was going on, in my opinion, so that wasn't great. I gave this one 2 stars because I was ultimately disappointed. And then I read my favourite read of the month and one of my favourite reads of the year. If you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know what I'm about to say. It's The Kingdom of Copper. I finally finished it. It's a massive book. It's over 600 pages and it took me forever to get through, but I adored it. I gave this one 5 stars. This is the sequel to The City of Brass, which I read at the beginning of the year and fell in love with, then reread it quite quickly. It's an adult fantasy series set in what is meant to be kind of the Middle East. It's based around Middle Eastern mythology, like jinn, genies, water gods, all that kind of thing. I adore it. The author is so incredibly talented. She has created an amazing world here. I adore the characters as well. I'm so attached to all of the characters in this trilogy that I love them, that I don't know what I would do if they all end up dying in the 3rd book. Nari, the female main character, is one that I think everyone is going to connect with because she is just so strong, like strong-willed, not necessarily physically. And she's being introduced to this world that she knew nothing about, and she is going through so much crap, but she does a really good job of handling it, and I just think it's an amazing series. Please pick it up. I have nothing more to say. 5-star series all round so far. Like, if the last book disappoints me, which I don't think it will, then I'm gonna be so sad. Another library book I read is The Taking of Annie Thorne by CJ Tudor. This is the author of The Chalkman, which I have heard is amazing. I tried to find that in the library, but it wasn't there, so I picked up this one instead because I quite like the spine. That's what caught my eye, really. This was alright. I gave this one 3 stars. It's an adult thriller set in the UK. The main character goes back to his old hometown, which is a mining town. A ton of people are out of work, or were out of work, and it's a bit of a grim place, to be honest now. Back in the day when he was a child, his sister was taken, and he goes back. I'm not going to tell you why he's gone back actually, but he's gone back and then things start to resurface and yeah, stuff happens. I was expecting so much more from this book because I thought that the idea of the child being taken and then coming back again shortly after was really, really intriguing. But to be honest, it wasn't really my kind of thing, just because I had the same issue with a similar book, which I'm not going to name because spoilers, and I really don't like that trope that was in both of them. That was quite disappointing. I was expecting more from the ending and from the whole entire mystery of what happened to Annie and what was currently happening to the main character. I then read an e-arc that I received from the publisher in exchange for an honest review, and that is Don't Date Rosa Santos. I gave this one 3.5 stars. It's a YA contemporary and it's just really, really sweet and adorable. The main character, Rosa, is supposedly cursed. So she lives in this seaside town with her grandma. Her mum travels around the country doing like paintings and artwork for people, and she's not a very like active mum. So Rosa has applied for college. She's 18 and she wants to spend part of her college experience in Cuba, where her grandmother is from. Then she meets a guy with a boat, and this is an issue because, like I said, Rosa is cursed and so is the whole family. Rosa's mother and grandmother both lost their other halves at sea, so obviously Rosa being interested in a guy who owns a boat is not a good sign. To be honest, the romance took a backseat in this book. It's mostly about Rosa coming to terms with her relationships with her mother and grandmother, and also like how she feels very disconnected from Cuba, where her family is from, and yet she really wants to go there to experience things for herself. I did really like the book. It's just it wasn't a book like written for me. Obviously I'm not Cuban, I'm English, and I couldn't really relate to it in that way, but I still found it really, really cute. It did, however, make me look into reading about Cuba some more, because it's not really something we ever studied in school. To be honest, the first thing I heard about Cuba was probably when I was an adult and one of my colleagues went there on holiday, and I knew nothing about it until then. I knew it was a country, but didn't know anything about it. So I'm quite glad that I read this book, because it did make me start to research the country and look into its history and stuff, and I'm going to continue to do so. It's just, it wasn't like my book. Then there was Pieces of Her by Karen Slaughter. This is my first Karen Slaughter book, and I have to say I wasn't incredibly impressed. I gave this one 3 stars. It's an adult thriller. It's about a woman who is almost the victim in a mall shooting, but her mother saves her. She can't figure out why her mother is suddenly so good at like self-defense and martial arts, and the whole thing is broadcast on TV, and then people start coming after them, and it turns out that her mother has a mysterious past. And I thought this was going to be a book about coming to terms with the shooting. I think I was expecting too much from it. I was expecting a more like psychological thing, but it was more of an action thriller. It was okay, just alright. I thought that it dragged a bit in the middle, and to be honest, I cared more about the flashbacks to do with the main character's mother than I did the main character. In fact, I thought the main character, whose name is Andy, was very plain and bland. She didn't really have much of a personality, and she seemed to whine all the time. So that was a bit disappointing, but once it got going and started looking into the mother's past, it was better. It was a bit of a dull book, really. Next, I read Lifelike by Jay Kristoff. This is one that I bought last year and I had been putting off because I read Nevernight and I really wasn't impressed by it, so I didn't really want to pick this up. And to be honest, I didn't love this one either, but I did like it more than I liked Nevernight, so that's something. I gave this one 2.5 stars. It's YA science fiction about cyborgs and AI and robots. The main character lives in the Dregs, which is like either in California or near California, or what was once California anyway. It's set in the future, and basically humans have destroyed the earth. The sun causes like cancer if you're out there for too long. She takes part in what is essentially these robot wars or robot battles, and one day she defeats a robot just by releasing some sort of energy. She thinks that she has special powers, and then she comes across a lifelike, which is a humanoid kind of robot. They look just like humans, and that's probably all I'm going to say. It's quite a short book, so there's not really much more I can say without spoiling the plot, and I think that I'm so restricted in talking about the plot is because the plot was very basic. This was just your average YA science fiction book. It didn't offer anything new to the genre. I feel like I've read this book before multiple times, and that's not to say that it's a bad book, it's just it wasn't anything unique. Yeah, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it or like it particularly either. I might read the sequel just so I can recap it for Recaptains. I've honestly not got much interest in this series, and I probably wouldn't pick up the sequel unless I was recapping it. Would I recommend this book? No, not really. I think there's better YA sci-fi out there if you want it. Finally, the last book is one that I'm currently still reading, but it's only it's the 31st of May, but I'm going to finish this one today because I'm halfway through, and that is Jade City by Fonda Lee. This is the first book in her Green Bones saga. I'm not sure if it's going to be a trilogy or longer. This is adult, kind of steampunky fantasy, and I gave this one 4 stars, or will be giving this one 4 stars. So it's set in the Jade City that has a different name that I can't remember, and it's not on the back. Janloon, sorry. Okay, so it's set in the city of Janloon. This is going really well. And there are 2 rival clans. There's No Peak and Mountain, or the Mountain clan. We, as the reader, are fans of the No Peak clan. All the characters are in that. They don't control the government or anything, but they do control what's going on in the city. And in this world, people, the Green Bones, can use jade to enhance their abilities, like natural abilities, such as like perception, so they can sense people coming from far away. The conflict arises when there's a new drug created, and that allows anyone to use jade, because previously it can only be from used by certain families and certain people with this, you know, genetic ability. But this drug allows normal humans to use it. I'm really enjoying this so far. It kicks off right from the beginning in terms of action and excitement. I have to say that there's a big cast of characters, and I think it would take you a little while to get used to them. I managed to get through the first half quite quickly, and I think it really helped that I didn't really take any breaks, because if I had taken a break I probably would have forgotten exactly who the characters were and what their ranks within the clan were, because it's quite a lot to keep track of. But now that I'm in the middle of it, I feel like I've got a good grasp on that. So these are all the books that I managed to read in May. It's still only 8, but some of them were enormous. I'm still quite proud of myself. I think this is quite a good reading month, even though I didn't like love all of the books that I read. I would definitely say my favourite book of the month was obviously The Kingdom of Copper. How could it not be? I did get most of these books from the library. Only 2 of them were my own. So I definitely think going to the library helped motivate me, because I need to get them back. I hope that in June I'll be able to read more of my own books, because I need to start whittling down that pile. But for now, I've still got a couple of library books to read. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them in the comments down below. I'll speak to you all in my next video. Bye!